Dear students, this is just about what are the elements of the steam power cycle, how they are connected, okay, and what is the efficiency of the steam power cycle we discussed, right? So what are the problems with the Carnot cycle, and what are the changes made in the Carnot cycle to convert into the Rankine cycle, right? So from that we come to know that efficiency is equals to 1 minus TL by TH, lower temperature to the high temperature. Now today we'll discuss how to increase the efficiency of the Rankine cycle. So from this we can see, if you decrease the TL, what is TL? It is the condenser temperature, or by increasing the boiler temperature. Okay, so we can increase the efficiency of the Rankine cycle, meaning that, so here if you decrease the TL, this value will be decreased, thereby the efficiency will be increased. Or if you increase the TH, this ratio will be small, thereby 1 minus that small will be again big one. Okay, so we can increase the efficiency of the boiler. Okay, sorry, not the boiler, it is the steam power plant. Okay, now the first one is the decreasing the condenser pressure. Okay, first one means by decreasing the condenser pressure, we can decrease the TL value. Okay, so
listen carefully, very important question. Efficiency improve methods in Rankine cycle by lowering the condenser pressure or by increasing the turbine temperature. Very important for us.
By lowering the condenser pressure, meaning that by expanding more time in the first method is by decreasing the condenser pressure, right? As we know, by decreasing the condenser pressure, the steam can be expanded more time in the turbine. Okay, now you can see 3 to 4 is the normal expansion, and if you decrease the condenser pressure, the expansion will be continued till 3 to 4 days. If you see, the pressure P4 is greater than P4 dash, right now, because these lines are constant pressure lines. Now from here you can see here, this is the constant pressure line, and this is the constant pressure line, and this is the constant pressure line, right? So by decreasing the condenser pressure, the expansion is continuous till 3 to 4 dash, right? Now if you see, without decreasing the condenser pressure, what is the area here available? 2341. Okay, by decreasing the condenser pressure, now the area is increased. Okay, now the area is increased to 234 dash 1 dash. Okay, so therefore when area increases, automatically the cycle efficiency is also increased. Okay, now the main problem by decreasing the condenser pressure is, so here the problem here is, to take the advantage of increased efficiencies at lower pressure, the condensers of the steam power plant usually operate well below the atmosphere. As we know, the always inside the compressed condenser, the pressure is vacuum pressure, right? So this does not present a major problem since the vapor power cycles operate in a closed loop. So these all four elements will be operating in a closed loop: condensation, evaporation, expansion. Condensation, evaporation, expansion. This will be actually occurring in the closed loop only. However, there is a limit on the condenser pressure that can be used. Okay, so the pressure of the exit of the turbine should not fall below the saturation pressure of the condensing liquid, the liquid we are using in the condenser. So the pressure of the steam leaving the turbine should not fall below the saturation pressure of the liquid we are using for the condensation purpose. Okay, suppose for example, if you take, we are using the river, from the river we are taking the water for the condensation. Let us assume in the river the temperature is 15 degrees centigrade. Okay, in the river the different the water is at 15 degrees centigrade. Okay, now allowing a temperature difference of 10 degree for effective heat transfer, the steam temperature in the condenser must not be below the 25 degree, meaning that, so if the temperature is 25 degree, the saturation pressure at that temperature is 3.2 kilopascal, means the maximum limit of pressure exit pressure is 3.2 kilopascal, right? The pressure should not fall below this value, because there is a limit that the pressure of exit steam should not fall below the saturation pressure of the liquid we are using. Then only the heat transfer will be taking place. That is the first one, by lowering the condenser pressure. Second one is by increasing the TH. How to increase the TH? By increasing the by superheating the steam to higher temperatures, right? So we are superheating the steam. So what is superheating? Now you can see this is the constant pressure line and this is the vapor line, and if you move right side of the vapor line, this will be perfect gases, means we can say superheated form. Okay, now we can see 3 to 3 dash, it is superheated. Okay, so superheating of steam will increase the net work output because the area is increased. If you see, instead of 3 to 4, it is increased to 3 dash to 4 dash. The net area is increased. When the net area is increased, automatically the efficiency of the plant is also going to increase. Okay, now third one is the increasing the boiler pressure. Okay, now you can see this line 2 to 3 is one pressure line, 2 dash to 3 dash line is one pressure line. Okay, now instead of 1 to 2, we are increasing the pressure to till 2 dash. If you increase the 2, now see here we are increasing the pressure, but we are maintaining the temperature of the steam entering into the turbine is constant. You can see this is a 3 and 3 dash lies on a horizontal line. If you see on vertical axis, you have temperature. So when both the points are on the same horizontal line, the temperature remains constant. We are increasing the pressure, but we are maintaining the temperature of the steam entering into the turbine is constant. Okay, increasing the operating pressure of the boiler leads to increasing the temperature at which the heat is transferred to the steam, and thus raises the efficiency of the cycle. Okay, so now note that for fixed temperature inlet temperature, the cycle shift to the left. You can see here, instead of earlier the point 3 is right of the your vapor line, but if you see point 3 dash is closer to this. Okay, now what is the main problem here? 3 dash to 4 dash, observe 3 to 4. 3 to 4, the point 4 is nearer to vapor line, but 4 dash is far away from vapor line, means it is two-phase mixture. Getting on it? It is slightly liquid will be there, but it is vapor only. But 4 dash is liquid plus vapor. Due to this, what will happen? So due to the due to the liquid present inside the steam, it will corrode the blades of the turbine. That is the problem with the by increasing the boiler pressure, because the point 4 is shifted to the left side. Okay, so now next we will see the other types of the efficiency increasing methods. Now this problem, so what is the main problem here? The point 4 is shifted to 4 dash, thereby the vapor liquid is present, it erodes the blades. To avoid that one, what we are doing, that can be corrected by reheating the steam. Very, very, very important, reheating the steam. So very, very simple, easy to understand. I'll explain. So let us assume only one boiler is there. This is normal Rankine cycle.
Student, so far is it is clear? So one is by lowering the condenser pressure, second one is by increasing the turbine temperature, third one is by increasing the boiler pressure. Do you have any doubt in this one? These are the three methods to increase the efficiency. The first case, if you decrease the condenser pressure, right? So if you decrease the condenser pressure, what is happening? If you decrease the condenser pressure, the area is increasing. The area of PV diagram is increasing. Right, if you see here, earlier, if you increase the condenser pressure, the point 4 is shifted to down. If the point 4 is shifted to down, the area is increasing. Okay, na? So that is the reason, by decreasing the condenser pressure, the efficiency is increased, right now, right? So that is the one. The main problem here is the pressure should not fall below the vapor pressure of the condensing liquid. That is the constraint over here. So we are decreasing the condenser pressure, and one constraint here is the steam leaving the turbine. The pressure of the steam leaving the turbine should not fall below the vapor pressure. So for example, I considered, let us say we are taking the water from the pond or river, and if the water temperature is 15 degrees centigrade, at 15 degrees centigrade, the saturation at 15 degrees centigrade, the saturation pressure of the water is 3.2 kilopascal. Nothing but it is 0.032 bar. Means the exit pressure of the steam should not fall below that 0.032 bar. That is the one constraint in case of by decreasing the condenser pressure. Okay, and the second one is by increasing the boiler temperature, right? Now that is steam temperature, superheating the steam to higher temperature, right? If you see the line 2, 3, 3 dash, it is a constant pressure line. on this line, wherever you select a point, the pressure remains constant. Means here we are superheating the steam by maintaining the pressure constant. Okay, so if you see, this is the saturated vapor line. If you move away from the vapor line, that will be superheated steam, right? Means the temperature is keep on increasing, right? So earlier the steam is entering at 0.3 and it is expanding till 0.4. Now due to the superheating, the 0.3 is shifted. The 0.3 is shifted to 3 dash. So, but pressure remains constant, right? So therefore, if you compare the quality of the steam at 0.3 dash, it is superheated steam, right now. So therefore, it is expanding 3 to 4. Again, due to this, what happened? The area is increased, okay, thereby increasing the efficiency of the Rankine power cycle or steam power plant. This is the second method. Third method is what? If you see, the third method is increasing the boiler pressure. So if you increase the boiler pressure, if you see, this is one pressure line and this is other pressure line, right? So this is constant pressure line and this is also one constant pressure line. So instead of 1 to 2, we are increasing the pressure 1 to 2 dash, right now. So if you see 2 dash is above the 2, okay, this is higher pressure, okay, but we are maintaining the temperature of the steam entering into the turbine constant. The only thing is the pressure is more. Okay, right here the main drawback here is, so earlier the steam is expanding 3 to 4, the point is more or less it is on the vapor line, but by increasing the pressure, the steam is expanding from 3 dash to 4 dash, but the point 4 dash is far away from the vapor line. It is nearer to the liquid line as compared to the point 4 dash is nearer to the liquid line. Therefore, the mixture available at point 4 dash, it is a two-phase mixture. It is a combination of liquid plus vapor, and it is very difficult to pump this one. Okay, na? Right. So in order to overcome all these drawbacks, now what we are doing, we are one more. Right. So in order to overcome the problem because of the moisture content, because if you see previous diagram, 4 dash is a combination of two-phase mixture. Therefore, it contains some moisture. Therefore, it may corrode the blades of the turbine. Therefore, in order to avoid that one, what we need to do, we need to reheat the steam before entering into the turbine.
Other types of the efficiency to 4 dash, thereby the vapor liquid is present, it erodes the blades. To avoid that one, what we are doing, that can be corrected by reheating the steam. Very, very, very important, reheating the steam. So very, very simple, easy to understand. I'll explain. So let us assume only one boiler is there. This is normal Rankine cycle: boiler, turbine, condenser, pump. Right now, so the name itself, it is indicate that reheating the heat. Reheating the heat means we are expanding the steam in two turbines. First, we are allowed to expand the steam in one turbine. After that, again we are reheating to the original temperature. Then we are allowed to expand over the second turbine. Okay, so that what will happen? The moisture content can be eliminated, so that the corrosion problem can be overcome. Okay. Now, to take the advantage of increased efficiency without facing an excessive moisture at the final stage of the turbine, reheating is used. Okay. Now, as we know, you can see this is the boiler. So from the water is supplied to the boiler, and at 3 we are getting the steam. Okay, at 3 the steam is entering into the turbine and it is allowed to expand over the turbine, thereby the pressure drop will take place. Okay, so now we are going to pressure drop will take place, as well as temperature drops also takes place due to the expansion. Now we are increasing the temperature. By maintaining the pressure constant. Got it? Maybe pressure drop is taking place from 3 to 4, but at 0.4 we are maintaining the pressure constant, but increasing the temperature to the original temperature at which the steam is entered into the high pressure turbine. Means again, while passing through the superheater, or we can call it as reheater, the steam temperature is increased. Now you can see the 0.5 and the 0.3. 0.3 is the temperature at which the steam is entering into the high pressure turbine. Then again we are sending it to the boiler for reheating. Again the temperature is increased to the original temperature. At this point of time, we are allowing the steam to expand over the low pressure turbine from 5 to 6. You can see 5 to 6 is the expansion of the steam in low pressure turbine, and 3 to 4 is the expansion of the steam in high pressure turbine. So 4 to 5 process is the reheating. 4 to 5 process is the reheating. Now after 6, what we need to do? We need to condense the steam. Okay, now it is followed to pass through the condenser. Now 6 to 1 process is the condensation process. Now you can see in the TS diagram, this is the condensation process. Then 1 to 2 is the pumping process. Then 2 to 3 is the heat addition in the boiler at constant pressure. This is the constant pressure line 2 to 3. Okay, now you can see here we are adding the heat in two ways, right? From 2 to 3 we are adding the heat, and from 4 to 5 we are adding the heat. At the same time we are extracting the work from 3 to 4 and 5 to 6. If you write the energy balance equation, so Q will is equals to H3 minus H2 plus H5 minus H4. Got it? At the same time, work output is equals to H3 minus H4 plus H5 minus H6. That's what written here. Okay. As we know, the formula efficiency equal to net work by heat supplied. From that we can substitute. You will get the from reheating, the efficiency of the plant can be increased up to 4 to 5% on average. Okay. This is the reheating process. Next important one is the regenerative Rankine cycle. This is also.
Yes. Do you have any doubt in reheating cycle? In reheating cycle is very simple. Here, what we are doing, we are expanding the steam in two turbines. Okay. So once after expansion, what happened? The steam will the quality of the steam will be decreased. So moisture will be contained, right? Moisture will be formed. So in order to eliminate the moisture content present inside the steam, we are sending the steam after expansion through the high pressure turbine to the superheater or reheater. So what is superheater?
We are adding the
what is superheater? It takes the heat from the boiler only. Okay, now right? So it will reheat the steam to the original temperature at which the steam is entering into the high pressure turbine. You can see clearly the point 3 is the point at which the steam enters the high pressure turbine, and 3 to 4 the steam is expanded over the high pressure turbine. Thereby what happened? So the steam quality will be decreased and moisture will be formed. And now again 4 to 5 we are reheating the steam to the same temperature. At 5 the steam is entering into the low pressure turbine, and 5 to 6 it is expanding, right? If you see, we are adding the heat in two ways, that is 2 to 3 as well as 4 to 5. Therefore heat supplied is equals to H3 minus H2 plus H5 minus H4, and work done by the turbine is 3 minus 4 plus 5 minus 6. Therefore efficiency is equals to work done by heat supplied, right now? So therefore you will get the efficiency of the cycle.
Process. After boiler, the steam plus H5 minus up to 4 to 5% on average. Okay, this is the reheating process. Next important one is the regenerative Rankine cycle. This is also one of the efficient energy improving method. Okay, so in case of regenerative means, so what we are doing, I'll just go through the diagram. Now you can see here, there will be again regeneration is of two types. So what we are doing in regeneration process, after boiler, the steam is expanding in the turbine. Okay, so now what we are doing, we are trapping the steam from the turbine. So we are not allowed to expand the steam completely in the turbine. After expanding partially, some portion of the steam is trapped from the turbine, and that particular steam is used to heat the feed water. Okay, got the point? So we are allowing the steam partially in the turbine, and some portion of the steam from the turbine is trapped to heat the feed water. So thereby the temperature of the feed water entering into the boiler can be increased. Thereby the plant efficiency can be increased. Here the feed water heater, okay, feed water heater is also helps to remove the air present inside the condensed liquid. So that process is called deaerating the feed water. Okay, so there are two types of feed water heaters, that is open and closed, direct and indirect. Okay, we'll see one by one. So open, nothing but direct contact, means in this case the steam and water are going to mix directly, physical contact. Physically we are mixing the steam and the condensed water, thereby its temperature is raised. Now you can see here, from the boiler, so 4 is the water entering into the boiler, 5 is the steam coming out of the boiler. You can see 5, it is the highest temperature point. Okay, now you see that 4 to 5 constant pressure line, 2, 3, 6 is also a constant pressure line. Okay, now at point 5 the steam is entering into the turbine. Let us assume 1 kg of steam is entering into the turbine. 1 kg of steam is entering into the turbine. So in that 1 kg, what we are doing after some time, let us say when the steam is expand to 6, at that time I am trapping y kg of the steam. You can see from 1 kg we are trapping 1 y kg of the steam after expanding partially. Now what is the steam left out if you trap y kg from 1 kg? 1 minus y kg is left, that is allowed to expand completely. Got the point? For example, I am taking 1 kg. In that 1 kg, y kg is allowed to expand till the 6. Remaining 1 minus y kg is allowed to expand till 7. Means at 6, y kg of steam is entering into the open feed water heater. Got it? So therefore, 5 to 6 is the 1 kg of the steam is expanding, and 5 to 7, 1 minus y kg of the steam is expanding. Got it? Okay. This 1 minus y kg of the steam after expanding completely in the turbine is allowed to pass through the condenser, thereby it gets condensed. And again, this condensed liquid we are mixing with the y kg of the steam trapped from the turbine after partial expansion. That's why we are calling it as direct contact. Okay. So the other name is open type feed water heater or direct contact feed heater. Here we are mixing steam with the feed water, thereby its temperature is raised. So while mixing water with the steam, what will happen? Gases will be liberated. Okay, those gases can be removed. That process is also called as deaerating the feed water. Okay. Now from the at point 3, what is the temperature? Temperature is higher temperature, right? That hot water is pumped to the boiler and the cycle is repeated. Now come to the TS diagram. At 5, 1 kg of the steam is entering. 1 kg of steam, right? So at point 6, we are trapping y kg. Means 1 kg is expanded till 5 to 6. And if you take y kg from 1 kg, the remaining is 1 minus y kg. 1 minus y kg is expanded from 5 to 7. 1 minus y into 5 to 7, y into 5 to 6. This is the work done by the turbine. You can see work done by the turbine is equals to 1 kg is expanded from 5 to 6 and 1 minus y kg is expanded from 5 to 7. Sorry, 6 to 7. Okay, sorry. So till here it is 1 kg. From here it is 1 minus y kg. 6 to 7 is from 1 minus y kg, and 5 to 6 is total mass of the steam, that is 1 kg. That is the work output of the turbine. And heat addition will be Qin is at what point? And at 5 to 4. Okay. So boiler 4 to 5 is the heat addition. Okay. 4 to 5. And where we are getting the heat out? In the condenser. What is the mass of the steam entering? 1 minus y kg. 1 minus y into 7 minus 1. 1 minus y into 7 minus 1 is the heat out of that, right? Now we are using 2 pumps here. Okay. So one pump is from 1 to 2, other pump is 3 to 4, right now. So that is H1 minus H2 and H3 minus H4, or we can written as specific volume into P1 minus P2, specific volume into 3 minus 4, P3 minus P4. This is the pump. Got it? This is the open type of feed water heater. In open type, we are directly mixing the trapped steam with the feed water. Thereby, the feed water temperature is increased. Now, now thermal efficiency of Rankine cycle increases as a result of regeneration, since feed water heater raises the average temperature of the water before it enters the boiler. Many large power plants have as many 8 feed water. It's not compulsory that there should be 1 feed water. We can use n number of feed waters, depends upon your requirement. Okay. Now, second type of the feed water is the closed feed water. Okay. So in open type, there is a direct mixing of water and steam is taking place. Okay. But here that problem is eliminated. Here it is a closed one or indirect feed water heater. So what we are doing, same thing here also. After expanding the steam partially, we are trapping the steam from the turbine. Let us assume y kg is trapped here. Okay. So means 1 kg is expanded from 6 to 7. And if you trap y kg, 1 minus y kg is expanded. Okay. Now 1 minus y kg is expanded from 7 to 8. Okay. Now you can see we are trapping the steam from the turbine and we are not mixing directly. You can see 1 minus y kg is condensed here. That one we are pumping to the closed feed water heater. Through the pipes we are pumping the feed water. Like it is a closed feed water is also a heat exchanger. Inside the tubes we are pumping the water. Outside the tubes are exposed to the hot flue gases. Here in place of hot flue gases, what is that? Steam will be there. So there will be heat exchange between the steam and the water. Thereby the steam gets condensed and it will be collected. And that thing we are collecting from the pump to and from this it is feed water is already heated, and that is coming here, and the steam got condensed is also coming from pump 2. Both are we are mixing physically here, thereby again the temperature will be, now you can see here the temperature of the water leaving the feed water heater, the temperature of the water leaving the feed water heater is almost equal to the temperature of the exit of the turbine. Means we are trapping the steam from the turbine, that temperature almost equal. Okay, so there will be some small gap, then only heat exchange will be taking place. So that's why almost both the temperatures are equal. They are mixing in the mixing chamber, and then the cycle is repeated. Okay, the difference between open and closed is, in open type we are mixing directly steam and feed water. In closed type, the condensed water is passing through the tubes, and outside the tubes are exposed to the steam, thereby the heat exchange is taking place. That is about the closed feed water heater. Here there are some differences are mentioned here between open and closed one. You can go through that, and with this according to syllabus this is about one. Now just know the knowledge point of view. Cogeneration, very simple. Some plants required power as well as the heat. Okay, some plants require only power. Okay, now if your plant, let us, if you take an example for the paper industry, pulp industry, chemical industry, they not only require the power, but also they require the heat. So at that time they will go for the cogeneration plants. Cogeneration plant is nothing but same thing like regeneration only. We are trapping the heat from the turbine after expanding partially. That thing will be used for the process purpose. Any processing purpose we can use that steam. After that we will mix with the water only. Okay, so that is the cogeneration. Cogeneration means we are generating the power as well as we are using the heat for the process. Okay, usually, so in this process, we are taking the steam at 150 to 200 degrees centigrade at 5 to 7 atmospheric pressure. These plants also require large amount of electric power. Therefore, it makes economical and engineering sense to use already existing work potential to use as a process heat. This is called cogeneration. Cogeneration means we are getting the electric power as well as the heat. Okay, so with this steam power cycles are over.
Yes, students, do you have any doubt in regeneration? Regeneration. Please respond. In regeneration, we have two types, direct and indirect. That is open type and closed type. In open type feed water heater, directly the exit steam from the turbine is mixing with the condensed liquid. There will be physical contact between the steam leaving from the turbine and the liquid we are using for the condensing purpose. That is the open type regeneration. Whereas in case of closed type, we are not mixing directly the exit steam from the turbine with the condensed liquid. So whereas here the condenser liquid is allowed to pass through the tubes or pipes. I'll show you diagram. Right. If you see this, this is the tubes. Inside the tubes, the condenser liquid is allowed to pass through it, and over the tubes, the exit stream from the turbine is impinging. Right. So due to that, what will happen? Heat transfer will take place. Therefore, the steam will be condensed, and that condensed liquid will be settled at the bottom. And this one we can send it to the boiler. Before sending to the boiler, we are sending it to the mixing chamber by using the pump. Okay, so this is difference between open type and closed type feed water heater. The number of feed water depends upon the plant capacity. Again, okay, so this is about regeneration. We discussed about reheating as well as regeneration. Very important. Sometimes you will ask reheating and regeneration for 10 marks. With help of TS diagram, you need to explain. The TS diagram is very important. Is it clear?
Problems.
Problems, yeah. There may be chances of them. First, we will discuss theory, then we will go to the problem. So, in order to solve the problem, we require steam table again, because we are dealing with the steam right now. So, we need to note down the properties of the steam corresponding to the temperature and pressure mentioned in the problem. We will solve problems also. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Great. Now we will see about steam nozzles.
efficiency of the Rankine cycle. In that we discussed superheating, reheating, and regeneration. In regeneration, we discussed two methods: open type feed water heater, closed type feed water heater. Okay. Now in this video, we discuss about nozzle, types of nozzle, mass flow rate through the nozzle, and conditions for maximum mass flow through the nozzle. Okay. As we know, we are going to expand the steam in the turbine, right? So before expanding the steam in the turbine, first it should pass through the nozzle. Okay. So first the steam has to pass through the nozzle. There the first expansion is going to take place. Okay. So in the nozzle, the steam is going to expand. During this process, the pressure drop or enthalpy drop of the steam is going to take place. This enthalpy drop is converted into kinetic energy. Okay, so it means the pressure drop or enthalpy drop is converted into the kinetic energy. Okay, now the high velocity steam jets releasing from the nozzle is going to impinge over the blades of the turbine. So thereby the turbine rotor rotates. Okay, so thereby you are getting the power. Okay, now we can see steam turbine is nothing but it is a combination of nozzle and blades. These nozzle and blade both are mounted on the rotor. Okay, now we see what is a nozzle. Okay, so nozzle is a device of smoothly varying cross section. Okay, that is used to increase the velocity of the steam. Okay, now we can see here during the passage of the steam through the nozzle, as we know, the nozzle is used to accelerate the velocity. The velocity of the steam is going to increase. Just now I told that when the steam is passing through the nozzle from inlet to outlet, the enthalpy drop is going to take place. Okay, so thereby the kinetic energy is going to increase. Okay, so these nozzles we can use in power generation, even in rocket motors, jet engines we can use. Okay, the reverse of the nozzle is the diffuser. In the diffuser, the area is keep on increasing. When area increases, it is used to increase the pressure. Okay, by decreasing its velocity. Okay, diffusers are used in compressors, combustion chambers, etc. Okay, so nozzle and diffuser quietly opposite to each other. So in the nozzle, the area is always decreasing. In the diffuser, the area is always increasing. Okay, so always the final velocity of the nozzle is much more than initial velocity, and the final velocity of diffuser is always less than the initial velocity. Okay, here the pressure is increasing. Here the pressure drop is going to take place in the nozzle. Pressure is going to increase in the diffuser. Okay, now we have two different types of the nozzles, convergent nozzle and convergent divergent nozzle. Okay, so in convergent nozzle, so partial expansion of the steam is going to take place. Okay, so the expansion ratio is low, therefore we will get low velocity at the outlet of the convergent nozzle. Means velocity will increase from inlet to outlet, but the increased velocity, the outlet velocity will be not that much high. Okay, it has lower expansion ratio, therefore and hence lower outlet velocity in case of convergent nozzle. Now whereas in case of convergent divergent nozzle, if you can see, this is the convergent portion and here the area is minimum, this is the throat, and the area is increasing, this is the divergent portion. Okay, now when the steam is passing through the convergent portion, due to decrease its area, what happened? So the velocity is going to increase. So this is the throat and this is the divergent portion and this is the convergent portion. Okay, as compared to convergent nozzle, in convergent divergent nozzle we will get higher expansion ratio due to the divergent portion, therefore we will get high velocity steams. Okay, as compared to the convergent nozzle. Now we will see what is the outlet velocity of the steam when it is passed to the convergent nozzle. Okay, so before that, first we will discuss what are the assumptions made while deriving this derivation. Okay, small derivation. Okay. Now, so the first one is the steam is at steady state. Okay, and we are assuming that the nozzle is isolated from the surroundings. Okay, adiabatic condition means there is no heat drop from the nozzle and there is no moving part, therefore work done will be 0. Okay, so equilibrium states of steam at inlet and outlet condition, and it always obeys the continuity equation. Mass flow rate is constant. Okay, and there is no change in the potential energy. We are assuming that nozzle is in the horizontal position. These are the assumptions made, and as we know, steady flow energy equation we already studied in engineering thermodynamics. So there, from that steady flow energy equation, we are going to derive this, right? Let us assume at inlet condition it is 1, outlet condition it is 2. Let pressure at inlet is P1, enthalpy is H1, and inlet velocity is V1. At the same way, in the same way, at outlet P2, V2 and H2, right? So according to steady flow energy equation, H enthalpy plus kinetic head plus heat supplied is equals to enthalpy plus kinetic head at outlet plus work done. In the absence of moving parts, work done will be 0. When the nozzle is insulated, Q is also 0. That's why it is eliminated Q and W. Therefore, it is converted into H1 plus V1 square by 2 equal to H2 plus V2 square by 2. Therefore, H2 minus H1 is equals to V1 square by 2 minus V2 square by 2, or H1 minus H2 is equals to V2 square by 2 minus V1 square by 2, where H1 minus H2 is the enthalpy, enthalpy at inlet, enthalpy at outlet. As we know, when the steam is passing through the nozzle, enthalpy drop is going to take place. Therefore, enthalpy at inlet is always greater than enthalpy at outlet. That's why we are taking H1 minus H2. As compared to the outlet velocity, inlet velocity is very, very small. That can also be neglected. Okay. Now, so if you from the previous equation, so V2 square minus V1 square by 2 is equals to H1 minus H2. Then V2 square minus V1 square equal to 2 into H1 minus H2, and V2 square is equals to V1 square will become positive efficient right side plus 2 H1 H2, and if you remove the square, you will get the square root. Okay, as I said just now, compare with outlet velocity, inlet velocity is very, very small and that can be neglected. Therefore, V2 is equals to under root 2 into H1 minus H2, where H1 minus H2 is the enthalpy drop. If you know what are the units required for velocity, meters per second. But what are the units for the enthalpy? Enthalpy units are kilojoules per kg. But kilojoules per kg is not required. I required only joules per kg. So therefore, because if joules per kg is equivalent to the joules per kg is nothing but the 1 joule is 1 Newton meter divided by kg. Again, 1 Newton is 1 kg meter per second square. Therefore, if you take the enthalpy in joules per kg, the final units you are getting in terms of meter square per second. That meter square per second is within the root, and if you write outside of the root, that will be meters per second. And that kilojoules is converted into joules. Therefore, 2 is replaced by 2000. 2 is replaced by 2000. Okay, under root 2000 will be 44.72 if it come out of the root. Therefore, exit velocity is equals to 44.72 under root delta H. Got this one? Why it is 44.72? Because in order to get the velocity units as meters per second, so the enthalpy should be in joules per kg, not in kilojoules per kg. So from the data book or from the steam table, we are getting enthalpy as kilojoules per kg. Therefore, first we will convert into joules per kg by multiplying with 1000. Already 2 is there. 2 into 1000 is 2000. Therefore, 2 under root 2000 is 44.72, right? So now we can see this is the inlet condition, this is the outlet condition. So this is the ideal case. Ideal is nothing but the isentropic expansion, but actual case it is happening 1 to 2 like this. Okay, so from this we can define the efficiency of the nozzle. It can be defined as actual heat drop to the isentropic heat drop. Actual means H1 minus H2 divided by H1 minus H2S. Okay, now when the expanding fluid is a vapor, then delta H is called Rankine heat drop. Delta H is the enthalpy difference. Okay, when the fluid, anyhow, for the steam power plants, the expanding fluid is always vapor form. So delta H is called Rankine heat drop, which can be found from molecular chart or steam tables. Delta H value corresponding to the inlet condition. Okay, so pressure and temperature will be given at inlet. So corresponding to the pressure and temperature, we can calculate enthalpy, and corresponding to the pressure of the steam leaving at the exit, corresponding to that, we can find the enthalpy corresponding to 0.2. Thereby, you can calculate delta H value. Okay. For gases, we have PV power gamma is equals to constant. That is adiabatic process.
Yes. Yes. Any doubt in this previous derivation, that is velocity of the steam leaving from the nozzle? So why we are multiplying with the 1000? Because the SI unit for the enthalpy is joule per kg. It's not kilojoules per kg. Therefore, the value we are getting from the steam table is in kilojoules per kg. It is we are getting as kilojoules per kg, but SI unit is only joules per kg. If I take enthalpy as joule per kg, then only I will get velocity in terms of meters per second. That is the reason we are multiplying with the 1000. So very, very important formula you should remember. So velocity of the steam leaving from the nozzle equal to 44.72 under root delta H, where delta H is the enthalpy difference. Now we will see continuity equation.
So cross-sectional area at the outlet for the given inlet area. Okay, suppose the inlet area is given, you want to increase the velocity by this much, then what is the exit area? You know initial velocity, initial cross section, and final velocity also you know, but you don't know final area. So we can calculate. As we know from continuity equation, mass flow rate is constant, so mass is equal to density into area into velocity. So density can be written as 1 by specific volume. That's what area into velocity divided by specific volume at inlet is equals to area velocity divided by specific volume at the outlet. Okay, A is the area, small v is the specific volume, capital V is the velocity, m is the mass flow rate. Okay, so area per mass, right? Area per mass nothing but so area divided by A capital V by small v. So that is equal to, you will get specific volume to the velocity. Okay, so that is equals to A by m is equals to small v by capital V. Just now we did 44.72 under root delta S. From this we can get the area at the outlet. That it can be seen that for calculating variations in the area of the nozzle, it is essential to know that how the expansion is taking place, according to which law the steam is going to expand. Now we will discuss mass.
Right. So with this, we will stop today. In next class, we will derive the mass flow rate of the steam passing through the nozzle and the condition for maximum mass flow rate. Right. So these things we will discuss, we will derive in the